Hi everyone, and welcome to my Transformagram assignment. Before I start, I just want to let you know if you hear the sound of kittens meowing in the background, I apologize in advance. My parents have just adopted a few kittens, so they're quite loud. So welcome to my presentation, and I hope you enjoy. This is the video I recorded at the beginning of this assignment earlier in the semester, kind of just giving you an overview of my condition and a little bit of my journey, as well as answering Kleinman's 8 questions. So I hope you enjoy this, and I hope it kind of gives you a nice introduction into my presentation.
Hi. For today's assignment, I've decided to talk a little bit about a situation I had freshman year of college where I thought I was having chest pains and thought I had a problem with my heart. And so I went to the doctor. Just kind of a brief overview. I went to the doctor during my freshman year just to make sure that everything was okay. They did some scans, and it turned out that it was kind of just reflux heartburn, but just kind of stress induced. So for the first question, what do I think caused my problem? I think that it was the stress of freshman year and not really handling my diet as well as I could, as well as just drinking large amounts of coffee all the time. Without a lot of other food in my system. I think it started when it did just because it was college, I was stressed, everything was new. I am a coffee addict, I love the way it tastes, and it wakes me up, so I was just drinking it as the normal drink I would always have in my hand, so I think it was just the fact that I was drinking it so often. What do I think it did to me, or currently does to me, and how does it work? I think that it made me feel bad. I would obviously have pains at the end of the night, so it would keep me up later because I couldn't fall asleep. And it just made me kind of worried for my general health because I've always been a pretty healthy person. It wasn't that severe. I was worried it was more severe than it was, but it turned out to be fine. And it was pretty short because I got a handle on it pretty soon and went to the doctor early. Number 5, after talking to my doctor, realized that the best way of treating my heartburn was to kind of get to the root of it and just lower the stress overall, because without the stress I wasn't drinking as much coffee or staying up as late. So I was really good about limiting my coffee intake, was making sure that I was eating enough food to balance out the caffeine, and drinking plenty of water. I also took up yoga more because I really love yoga, and kind of just found ways to de-stress so that I'd be able to go to sleep and get a better night's sleep and would need less caffeine. What are the most important results you hope to receive from the treatment? Are you using multiple therapies, and how is your healing strategy coordinated? I think the most important result was that my chest doesn't hurt anymore and that I am feeling healthy and good in college. I was using a few different treatments. I was using a just over-the-counter medication, and then more CAM properties such as yoga and sleeping with essential oils at night, because eucalyptus really calms me at night before I go to bed. What is the chief problem my sickness has caused? It just made me worried. Obviously, it's not pleasant to have chest pains, and so it just kind of took away from my life a little bit. What I feared most was that something was actually wrong and that I was not okay as a freshman in college, and I had a more severe issue. But what makes me hopeful is that I've kind of gotten it under control now, and I had a lot of supportive help. So, thank you. Hi. For today's...
So in hindsight of going through treatment and understanding what my condition was, these are kind of the 3 key components that my physician and I decided were the causes of my reflux heartburn and the reasons I was feeling chest pain. So number 1 was kind of stress from school. I've always been a very independent person, and so I assumed that the transition into college would be very easy. However, upon moving to Omaha and starting freshman year, I soon realized that it's not easy to move away from home. It's always hard to adjust to a new environment. I've never been one that's been super eager for change in my life, so the stress from school was definitely a factor in causing my chest pains. Adjustments freshman year are always stressful no matter who you are. You're meeting new people, you're in a new place. and you're living on your own, which does make a big difference because now you're responsible for getting yourself up in the morning and getting yourself to do homework, and everything's very much on your own, as well as a greater workload. We all know that going into college and starting with your major can be very stressful. I am a bio pre-med, which as a freshman has a very specific stereotype, and so I think even the stigma around that added extra pressure to my life. My sleep schedule definitely affected my heartburn. I'm a night owl. I love to stay up late, but I have to wake up early because of my schedule, whether that's I have a team workout in the morning or I have an 8 a.m. class. So staying up late was never good for me because I always had to get up early the next morning, but that's when my brain was most active. Obviously, my sleep schedule led me to be very tired in the morning, which led to my high caffeine intake, which is my third point. This was my remedy for exhaustion. I was basically going 0 to 100. I was either exhausted and then I would over-caffeinate in the morning, only to crash again late that night. The other problem I have is that I really enjoy drinking coffee. I love throughout the day to always be holding a cup of coffee in my hand. So really there was just multiple factors leading to this, and these were the three my physician and I identified. So following the identification of what my three causes of the problem was, my physician and I were able to kind of better understand what was actually happening. So what was happening to me was that I was starting to feel chest pains, normally around 7 o'clock at night, pretty regularly on the dot. I would start feeling pressure in my chest, my heart rate would increase, and this led me obviously to believe that something might be seriously wrong. Then a few hours later, when I would try to go to sleep, I wouldn't be able to fall asleep because I was having an increased heart rate. I was having pretty severe chest pains, and that, led me to stress because I thought maybe there was something more seriously wrong with me. So basically, my sleep schedule was being directly affected by the fact that I did not feel well. And that only exacerbated the issue because I would wake up the next morning and feel tired because I'd spent the whole night dealing with my chest pains and with the stress of what my chest pains might mean. And then I would over-caffeinate the next day only to exacerbate the cycle later that evening. So obviously, this was kind of a positive feedback loop, if you will, of what was happening, what was causing it, and then my stress around it. So my doctor diagnosed me with reflux heartburn, which is obviously relatively not that big of a deal. I was very glad to find out that I did not have any severe underlying issues that I was unaware of. She did order a chest scan just in case, but it came back clear, thankfully. So she really thought that what was happening was that I was intaking too much caffeine and not eating enough to balance it out, also just overall taking in too much caffeine. And then also suggested that the exhaustion that was caused by me staying up late because of my caffeine was only hurting my health more and was detrimental in many ways. So really it came down to my caffeine intake as well as my lack of sleep. So her treatment suggestions were that I work on my sleep schedule, and this is much easier said than done. For all of you that are also night owls like me, you understand that it's hard that when it's 10:30 and you are ready to go to bed, or you know you should go to bed, and your brain starts working on overdrive, it's very hard to get yourself to a place where you can effectively fall asleep to get up the next morning. So this is kind of where my alternative medical practices came in, but we'll get into that a little bit later. Another big thing was cutting my caffeine intake in half and making sure I consume more calories every day. This one we kind of negotiated on, if I'm being honest. She wanted me to cut my caffeine intake down to 1 cup a day. I told her that was not reasonable, so we decided on 1.5, and I've tried very hard to stick to that. She also recommended that I monitor my diet a little bit more, so that I make sure I'm taking in enough calories to balance the amount of caffeine. She also said in extreme situations where my heartburn was keeping me up at night that I take Xantex, which is an over-the-counter medication, and that was super helpful. I don't take it very often, but it's nice to always have on hand so that if I'm staying up late because my heartburn is really affecting me, that I can take it and control it a little bit better. Another big thing was figuring out ways to monitor stress levels. Obviously, a big part of my sleep deprivation and the need for so much caffeine had to do with the amount of stress involved with college and moving and everything around that. And again, that's where the alternative medicine practices come into play. So I will get into that on the next slide. So using alternative medical practices was super helpful in my treatment process, especially in the area of managing my stress. I think there's a lot of different ideas on how stress should be managed, and I find that these alternative methods are very effective while also being very safe, and I really appreciate that. So I really turned to more natural remedies to manage my stress, which subsequently lowered my chest pains. One thing for me is yoga. I was introduced to yoga as a kid because my mom loved to do it, and I instantly fell in love with the practice of it. It's still to this day one of my favorite forms of exercise. It helps center me, which is super helpful, not even just for stress, but just for life. Feeling grounded and centered throughout your day is super important. It is a practice, which I love the word practice instead of just, activity. It's something that takes time, and it takes all of you, not just your physical self or your mental health, but both. I really enjoy just kind of the activity and the mental state you're in during yoga. And I think that the combination of both has been super helpful in balancing my lifestyle. Meditation has also, in a similar way, been important to me. Focusing on my breathing. I know it sounds very simple, as we all breathe every day without thinking, but sometimes taking those few minutes in the middle of your day to just breathe and just be in existence with yourself can really change the whole outlook of your day. If you're in a very stressful situation, if you're in a situation where you feel very down on yourself, sometimes taking the time to just, take a beat, breathe can be super, super helpful, and has personally helped me feel grounded amongst all the chaos that is college. Another big thing for me has been essential oils. I got into these a few years ago because of, I just bought a diffuser, honestly, and I've realized that they're great for lowering your stress levels, and I think in some ways they have a bit of a placebo effect because now I'm kind of trained with certain smells to react. Lavender has always been a de-stressor for me. I love wearing lavender throughout the day, and it just keeps me calm and grounded again, like my meditation practices. And then eucalyptus has become kind of my superpower in a way. I smell eucalyptus now and instantly want to go to bed. So for me, that means maybe putting a few drops of it on my pillow at night or putting it in my diffuser. And that has made a huge impact on my sleeping, which has then directly affected the amount of caffeine I have to take and my reflux heartburn. So all three of these practices have been beneficial in many, many ways, as any of you that do yoga or meditation know, but they have also directly affected my health in terms of my reflux heartburn. So I wanted to just take a minute to note the importance of medical pluralism. I think that, at least for me, I am a pre-med student, so I am very aware of the biomedical field because that's what I spend the majority of my time learning about, and it's something I'm looking forward to going into in the future, hopefully. But this class has really opened my eyes to the other methods of treatment out there that might be just as effective while also holding even deeper value. So I would like to just take a moment to the fact that throughout this whole treatment process and my understanding of my condition, I've really grown to value this idea of looking beyond just the Western medical model that we're all very familiar with, to see how other methods might positively impact treatment. And I think this is something we can all incorporate personally. Obviously, choosing to take up yoga or meditation on the daily, using essential oils, that's something we can all do personally, but as many of us are hoping to enter into the medical field in the next few years, it's also something we can encourage our patients to do. And so that is something I really want to take away from this class, is this pluralistic idea that there are things beyond our Western medical model and the biomedical model. Just because they might not be as well supported in our society and in our culture, they're not worthless. I would also like to connect it back to our Muscosi reading, as this text has been super influential throughout the semester, and I'd like to read this quote on meditation. So, Muscosi writes that meditation is a technique that can be used to calm mental activity, endless thoughts, and ways of reacting to one's circumstances. To be still, to experience the peace and contentment that lies within, we must free ourselves from this external materiality. Meditation is a process for calming and releasing the distraction from the minds for the purpose of opening and awakening to our true inner natures. Now, I've really loved this quote ever since we read it a few weeks ago. I think that it truly incorporates the importance of mental activity and just the importance of just being still. In our society, and especially in our lives as college students, it's very hard to find stillness. We're encouraged to always be going, as I'm sure many of you feel right now. We're technically at the end of the semester, and there's so much going on that it really is hard to just like be okay with being still and being with ourselves and being in the quiet. And so I think that Muscosi brings up a very great point about how there is so much value in being in the moment and being still, and that meditation can bring our awareness to that, which only positively affects us. So that is my presentation. My next slide is Works Cited. I will not be adding an audio clip to that, but I hope you enjoyed. I really enjoyed this journey, and I feel like I learned a lot, as I'm sure you all did as well. So thank you so much for following along, and I hope you enjoyed my presentation. Have a great winter break.